Welcome to Spenny and the Nets, your number one place for all Brooklyn Nets news, reactions, information, and so much more. I am your host, and I am joined by my part-time host, co-host, Nick. Nick, this is actually your first episode of Spenny and the Nets.
Why do you have to emphasize part-time? Why do you have to put emphasis on the part-time to make me sound lesser?
First of all, you're not lesser. Second of all, the last two episodes I've done were with Tyshawn Taylor and Trista Crick, who
Oh, you think I
actually
can't beat Tyshawn Taylor one-on-one?
it'd be close. I think he's probably got you by about, if you're going to 11, he's probably got you by about 10 points.
I agree.
All right, let's get into it. We had, I don't know if you want to call it a thriller. The Nets win their first cup game. Well, this is their second cup game played. They lost the first one to the Knicks. They beat the Charlotte Hornets at home, 116, 115. Charlotte had a chance to tie the game in regulation. Brandon Miller missed a three. Grant Williams ends up getting a meaningless two-pointer at the very end of the game. The Nets hold on for the win. Story of this game, Nick, Cam Johnson, 34 points, 11 of 20 from the field, 6 of 12 from three-point range. He filled in for Cam Thomas, who was out tonight with, I'm going to do my quotation marks with my fingers, lower back issues. I don't know how real that was. There's been some chatter about Cam Thomas. We'll get into that later in the show. But Cam Johnson picked up the scoring load, and then Trendon Watford, 10 points down, 10 points in the game total, but 7 huge points down the stretch for Watford. He took advantage of a mismatch with Trey Mann, who's a little bit shorter than him and not as muscular. Nick, what was your overall takeaway from this victory after the Nets had a few losses in a row?
Well, you didn't even say that the Nets were down 17 at one point. I was texting you during the first half and saying this game sucks because the Hornets were shooting over 60% from three. The Nets couldn't find a bucket. We were turning the ball over like crazy. But we scraped our way back, went into halftime, I believe, down 5, 59-54, with a last-minute LaMelo ball three. Went up quickly in the third quarter. Quick timeout from the Hornets. Went up 9 at one point. Hornets came back and kind of fourth quarter ended up being back and forth until we pulled away. I find this Nets team very enjoyable to watch because they're all very selfless. There really isn't a guy, and I think the Hornets are the perfect comparison team, right? We were 5-9, they were 5-8. Now we're 6-9, they're 5-9. I would obviously say we're a better team based on the performance tonight, but also just based on team chemistry. You look at this Hornets team that's centered around LaMelo Ball hucking one-legged fadeaway threes every 2 or 3 possessions. You have Miles Bridges taking every other shot, and then guys like Trey Mann trying to make a name for themselves. And he actually shot really well tonight, Trey Mann. I think over 50% from three. Hit a bunch in the first half, kind of slowed down towards the end. But the Hornets just seem like a team of guys trying to be that guy. Like, they don't really have a game plan other than shit, we're in trouble. LaMelo do something, Miles do something, maybe Brandon Miller try to do something, and if not, huck a three. So to watch this Nets team, who you could argue is kind of on the same talent level, a lot of young, scrappy guys, a lot of young guys trying to prove themselves. But our young guys aren't just trying to get theirs. Our young guys are distributing. They're hustling on defense. I think, Watford, Wilson, Williams, all these guys just look like they want to be a part of a healthy, well-run organization. They don't seem like guys who are just trying to score as much as possible, be the guy that can get a contract somewhere else once the season is over. But in turn, by being selfless, by being pass first, by being a team player, you get the win and you set yourself up for a better opportunity down the line. So that's how that kind of works to me. Like you said, Cam Johnson, unbelievable this game. I love Trendon Watford. Jalen Wilson hit a bunch of huge threes this game. Clowney in the first half, he didn't play much in the second. First half, really, really great on the boards, putbacks, hit a three as well. The two guys that I texted you look like the weakest links right now were Schroeder and Simmons, who were the two vets on the team. Schroeder, like you said, started the season hot. He wasn't doing shit, and then he had some big turnovers in the fourth quarter. Simmons, again, I don't like watching Simmons when he could walk his way up untouched into the paint and no one's guarding him. So I really enjoyed this win. It was a good team effort. I like watching some of these young guys, but you look at these vets who were the worst two players on our team tonight, and it does worry you for any immediate future.
Yeah, you said in the beginning of that, and I appreciate you breaking that down. That the Nets, they're a fun team to watch, and that has not been the case the last 3 games. Outside of a fourth quarter comeback in New York, we'll get into. Really 2 uninspiring losses against the Celtics at home, and then the second game against the Knicks was very uninspiring. This was that first game where the Nets kind of got back to who they were in the beginning of the season. Even when they were losing, they were competing, they were making the hustle plays, and they were playing together. And you talked about Ben Simmons. Ian Cart points out that Ben was a plus 14. This was one of Ben's strongest games in a while. 10 points and 12 assists for Ben, 8 rebounds. He was flirting with a triple-double. He had, in the beginning of that fourth, he was responsible for 4 straight points, where he had it was the alley-oop that they put it up to him, and he got it with one hand. And then he had the putback on the Jalen Wilson 3 where they tipped it to him.
He's making all the right decisions. He's getting some buckets. But
I'll tell you this. Credit to Jordy Fernandez going with Trendon Watford over Ben Simmons down the stretch. Watford has been absent for the majority of the season. He's been recovering from a hamstring injury. I think the last game was the first game he was back. And for Jordy Fernandez, who has not been Watford's coach, right? His new coach, he wasn't there for Watford last year. For him to trust him down the stretch with the starters and for Watford to just take advantage of that and give it to Trey Mann and score those 7 straight points, that was huge. And I saw people upset that Ben was on the bench, but you need 5 guys who are willing to shoot and score the ball. And unfortunately, Ben's just not one of those guys.
He's only scoring under the rim. He's only doing putbacks, and he's getting a dunk when he can. It was a nice play when he caught the ball on that short 3 that I believe was Jalen Wilson got blocked, and he kind of jumped up and put it back in the fourth quarter there. Listen, he's a plus 14. That's great. He's putting up numbers. He's always getting like the 8, 9, and 8. That's like the classic Simmons. But like you said, if you're going to be able to double the best scorer on the floor every time because Simmons doesn't shoot, that's always going to be a disadvantage to me. I also want to point out on Miles Bridges' Wikipedia page, it says American rapper and basketball player.
I've heard his rap. It's not good.
I just want the world to know that Miles Bridges, the starting forward for the Charlotte Hornets, his primary profession is rapping.
He's a rapper, yeah.
And then basketball second.
No, I've heard him rap. He's not. He's not one of my favorites. I want to touch on a few of the other guys. So obviously, Cam Johnson was Superman tonight. He has had a really strong season. I was texting you about Dennis Schroeder. Schroeder started out really hot. He's flamed out the last few games. He was the only starter who was actually a minus out of the 5 starters. He was a -3. He had 12 assists, not Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons had 5 assists. I apologize for that before. Ben Simmons had 10 points, 5 assists, 8 rebounds. Schroeder had 14 points, 12 assists. But I bring that up because Cam Johnson is someone who started the year relatively hot, and he's just kept it up. And the fact that, he's put up 34 points in his career 3 times with the Nets, 11 of 20 from the field, 6 of 12 from 3, 6 of 6 from the line. Really strong game from him. But I wanted to touch on some of the other guys, Nick. Jalen Wilson, you brought up 17 points in the starting role, 6 of 13 from the field, 5 of 8 from 3. Dorian Finney-Smith. Now, when teams come calling Sean Marks for veterans that can help them in the playoff run, DFS is someone that they're going to call about. 15 points from him, 5 of 6 from the field, 4 of 5 from 3. Just a really, really strong performance from him. And the best thing about DFS is he can guard 1 through 5. He can guard your point guard. He can guard your center. So I just wanted to give the Nets starting 5 a shout out. And outside of those guys in Watford, nobody else had a huge impact on the game. Zaire Williams, unfortunately, I think Watford's going to eat into his minutes a little bit. Clowney didn't do much, and he got posterized by Trey Mann. That was a ridiculous dunk. And Trey Mann got the technical for talking shit, but that's one of those technicals that you kind of, it's worth
If I'm
going
to compliment anybody on the Hornets tonight, it was Trey Mann. He was hitting a shit ton of threes, and he was hustling his ass off. He had a putback. I actually almost threw the remote against the wall. There was a play with like 1:40 left in the game where we're up 3. Trey Mann misses a layup. And what's Trey Mann, 6 feet tall?
6'3",
6'3", in between Simmons, Watford. Neither of them box him out, and he puts back his own missed layup. on guys who are about 6 or 7 inches taller than him. So I was really pissed there. I kind of wish Jordy in that moment was a little more on his guys' asses, but they pulled through. I mean, listen, they gave the Hornets. We say this goes back to the Joe Harris not being able to inbound days like 3 or 4 years ago, where the Nets up 3 get a terrible looking shot. They turn it over, 5 seconds left. Hornets shoot a 3. Luckily, I think we get a hand on it. It's short, and they're able to put it back. They only win by 1. So really, technically, it should have been a 3-point game, and they put that 1 in at that 2 in at the buzzer, whatever it is. But we allowed the Hornets to have that opportunity to tie it up and send it into overtime. There needs to be a better play drawn up. We're inbounding the ball with 13 seconds left, 7 on the shot clock, and the inbounder is getting a hand on it every single time. I'm sorry, if Schroeder is inbounding the ball and he throws it off either the inbounder or another player blocks it twice, put Simmons in the inbound because he's freaking 6'11", 6'10". I don't like Schroeder, the shortest guy on the court, continuously inbounding it. The guy in front of him is, I don't know his name on the Hornets, had a 7'4" wingspan. It was a young guy they just threw in to literally disrupt the inbound, and the Nets don't adjust.
Musa Diabite is number 14. He's the guy you're thinking of.
And listen, I'm getting nitpicky, but those are things.
No, you're good. Listen, I would have liked to see, if Watford's going to take that to the rack, I would have liked to see him kick it out to somebody. I would have liked to see Cameron Johnson get a touch down the stretch. I understand that Schroeder wants to be the guy when Cam Thomas isn't here. Schroeder had that big shot against the Knicks. He's hit some really big shots this season, but I'd like to see if either him or it was Watford is going to drive, get Cam Johnson a touch, get one of, and probably not Dorian Finney-Smith, but get the guy who's got 34 a look, run a play for him, right? I just wanted to bring this up about Dennis Schroeder. I think he has one move, and I think it works a lot of the time.
What's the move?
It's just he gets past his defender with the dribble, and then he angles his body where he puts his body between the defender and the ball, and he kind of just angles it into the rim for a layup. It's a very simple move, but I feel like he scores on it every time.
He does. I mean, honestly, I will say tonight, I thought he got fouled on a few they didn't call doing that same move. But with that said, we're looking at Schroeder was averaging like 20 points a game in the first 10 games of the season. And tonight he was just nowhere to be found. And you got, thank God, guys like Cam Johnson and Trendon Watford stepping up and Jalen Wilson. But that's the guy we need to be consistent throughout. And when he's not scoring, he's missing shots and he's turning the ball over in late game situations. I don't know. I didn't feel comfortable with him on that court in the last minute or two.
Talking about Schroeder?
Schroeder, yeah. I think Schroeder.
I think Fernandez has to be a little bit more imaginative with the offense. I think giving the ball to Dennis Schroeder play after play, and then, I mean, it worked with Watford. You kind of lived with it because it worked, and he had the mismatch. So that was a smart basketball play. But for us to just give the ball to Schroeder every possession under 2 minutes and say, hey, make it happen, I don't love that strategy moving forward. However, I digress. We won the game. Weird game in the sense that why was LaMelo Ball not on the court in the last 5 minutes?
Probably because he was just hucking up shots. There was a fast break where 2 guys were open in front of him, and he just jumped into a player out of control and missed like a floater terribly, then complained to get a foul. I don't like LaMelo's game, man. Like, he hit some deep threes. That's cool. You're like a wannabe Steph Curry type. I didn't know Seth Curry was on this Hornets team, by the way. And you know who else is? I believe it's Taj Gibson.
Is he? Let's see. He is. He did not play. Do you know LaMelo Ball's numbers this year? He only had 12 tonight, but he's averaging close to 30 points a game. He's 29.7.
And he's shooting almost 44%. Like, he's having
he's nice. He had some boneheaded plays in this game. I think he ended up with looking here, he had 4 turnovers, 4 personal fouls. Yeah, and I know Man was playing well. Like you said, Man was 4 of 6 from 3, 7 of 17 from the field with 19 points off the bench. I don't know. Weird game to bench LaMelo Ball. But I think we should move on, Nick. Good win for the Nets. They moved to 6-9. They're 4-3 at home. Ian Cartwright's Cavaliers lost their first game this season. Yep, Celtics beat them. Glad they finally lost. Kenny Atkinson, former Nets coach, 15-1. I did want to get to Nick. There's some rumors that's been going around. So Sam Amick of The Athletic reported earlier today, and it was picked up by every major NBA media outlet. Fourth-year gunner Cam Thomas, who's averaging 24.6 points per game, failed to come to terms on an extension and is widely considered to be available. But Brooklyn's list of possibilities hardly ends there. They have proven vets like Dennis Schroeder and Bojan Bogdanovic, who has yet to play this season because of left foot surgery, but is progressing toward a return. So it was kind of weird this morning because Cam Thomas popped up on the injury report as probable because of a lower back thing. And then as the game got closer, it said he wasn't going to play. We don't have to speculate. I mean, we can go wherever you want with this. But my question to you, Nick, is as a fan, knowing that the Nets are trying to tank and get a high lottery pick, but also knowing that Cam Thomas is 23 years old, would you be super upset if the Nets moved on from Cam Thomas this season?
My immediate answer is no, solely based off the recency bias of watching the team tonight and not missing him. The team played very selfless, like I said. The team was always looking for the next man. A bunch of different guys stepped up. There was no ISO ball. It really wasn't. Schroeder runs a nice pick and roll. Jalen Wilson runs around a nice off-ball screen to hit an open three. You got Trent Watford getting a switch and taking advantage of a mismatch like with someone Trey Mann and taking it down low. And you got everybody rebounding and playing defense. Again, that was a great example tonight of not needing Cam Thomas because all the other guys stepped up. Maybe I watch him score 45 tomorrow and I change my mind. But I would say no. I would say we're developing these younger guys. You and I, in the past 2 to 3 years watching Cam Thomas, I've always enjoyed watching it, but we've never felt that he's the guy to build a franchise around. We never felt he was the guy. We've never felt confident saying that. And as much as he is a fantastic scorer, a joy to watch, and I think you sent me that tweet today that he might pass who was it in scoring? KD. And
if he doesn't get traded, he's going to pass KD, I think, in scoring.
As a net scorer.
Yeah.
As a net scorer, let's just get that down.
As a net scorer, correct.
So no, I wouldn't say I'm worried about it. If we do want to tank the season and it's worth getting rid of someone like him, then I understand the strategic move. And I do enjoy, what I enjoy most about watching a bad team like the Brooklyn Nets or a below average team is watching a game where Trendon Watford becomes the freaking MVP. That's what I enjoy most. A game where Cam Johnson has 34 and you put him back on that Suns team, he doesn't even get the opportunity to score more than 10. So those are the things I enjoy. So to answer your question, if Cam Thomas had to go, best of luck wherever he goes on his journey, but I won't be too bummed about it.
All right, I want to respond to you in a second. You mentioned Trendon Watford. He was quoted after the game, "My adrenaline was out of the roof. Honestly, I told coach, just let me rock. I'm good." His minutes restriction was set at 18, but he played 19. As for his closing buckets, Watford said he had mismatches and he wanted to take advantage and be aggressive. Basketball can be a very complex sport. That's very simple. If you're 6'9" and there's a guy that's 6'3" on you, get the ball and post up. And ironically, that's something that Ben Simmons will never do. He will never call for the ball in those situations, and that's why Watford was out there. Back to the Cam Thomas thing. Evan Barnes, who covers the Nets, tweeted that Jordy Fernandez said Cam Thomas first felt the lower back strain during Sunday's Knicks game. He played through it, but the Nets chose to be cautious with him today. Okay, fine. That's a realistic answer. I'll believe it for now. I'll trust my head coach telling me that he was dealing with back spasms. I've gone back and forth on this. Should the Nets keep or not keep Cam Thomas? And you talked about the selflessness of the team. They're going to trade Cam Johnson. He is not going to be a Net next year. I truly believe that. I think they're going to move on from him. You're going to get some really high lottery picks, but wouldn't you like the opportunity to have them grow with your 24-year-old, close to 30 points per game scorer? I understand that Cam Thomas can't be the best player on a championship level team. He just can't. That's never going to happen. Can he be the second or third option on a championship level team? Maybe. If you're able to draft a Cooper Flag and you get some really good vets around those two guys and you keep the young core of Jalen Wilson and Trendon Watford and Zaire
But
Williams.
He's not a mesh guy. He's not a mesh guy. You think he's comfortable taking a third or fourth spot on a great team? You think he's not trying to get his? He's not hucking up shots.
This also, season,
We have a question in the comment section.
I do want to get to Ian. I'm going to get to your question about Jordy's challenges in a second. This season, I think Cam Thomas has rolled with the punches every single year he's been here. Like he started here with Kevin Durant, KD, and Harden. I'm sorry, I said Kevin Durant, KD, Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and James Harden, and then those guys got traded away, and it was his team for a second, and then Mikal came, and all of a sudden he kind of took a backseat to Mikal Bridges. Now Mikal Bridges is gone, and he has been the guy, but weirdly enough, in the fourth quarter of games down the stretch, it's been more Dennis Schroeder. It's been more Trendon Watford. Dorian Finney-Smith took the final shot. I think it was in the Denver game that we lost in overtime. So, like, Cam Thomas is able to sacrifice. He is able to mesh. Can he get his assist numbers up from 3.1? Maybe, but I disagree with the notion that he's not able to mesh with a really good team. I think he's shown that he's more than capable of adjusting his game his entire tenure he's been here.
It sounds like you're saying because he's just stuck around, he should be able to stick around longer.
But again, he hasn't just stuck around. When the team asks him to score 30 points a game, he scores 30 points a game. If they ask, and that hasn't been the case a lot of nights. Like the second game against the Knicks, he was getting double teamed. So he only ended up with 8 or 10 and not enough shot attempts. Having Cam Thomas is better than not having Cam Thomas. And unless you're going to get some ridiculous haul like you got for Bridges, I say hold on to him. He's 23 years old. See how he meshes with the young talent you're about to draft. Ian Cart writes, what do you think of Jordy's challenges? In this game, they weren't the best. They were not the best. I believe he lost the challenge with Miles Bridges. It was off of Ben Simmons, and they challenged it, and because they didn't have clear conclusive evidence to overturn it.
At first look, I would have challenged that too. It looked like Miles Bridges, if you're talking about literally the physics of it, he slaps the ball and it goes in the opposite direction because it looked like it hit off Miles Bridges' knee. You don't have enough time to watch it before the next play to decide whether or not it's as legit of a challenge as you think. In real time, that looked like it was right off Bridges' knee. That's where the direction his body was going. And of course, they called it inconclusive because if it's off the knee and it kind of looked like it came off and Ben Simmons' fingers were still grazing it. But I think 9 out of 10 coaches make that challenge every night.
I've been pretty adamant about the fact that I'm ride or die for Jordy Fernandez. He's been great at challenges this year, one of the better coaches in the league. When he reacts to things, I think he reacts the way that as a fan you want him to react, right? If the team gives up, a run to the opponent, he will call timeout and he will get on guys. And you heard, I think it was Zaire Williams talking about just that in a recent interview. Like coach isn't afraid to rip into guys, and these guys like playing for him. So while he lost the one challenge in this game, Nick, I guess I'll agree with you. You probably challenged that in real time. I would also like him to realize that, like, you're going to get to the fourth quarter. You might want to save a challenge or two in some of these games down the stretch. That was in the third quarter of that play. But either way, Jordy's been great, and I'm just very happy to have him as a coach.
I'll second that.
You'll second that. All right, awesome. So we're not close to ending the podcast. We have 3 games we got to get into, and then we can end the podcast. Ian Cart writes, I think he's a good coach, still learning. He is first-time head coach.
He has to get angrier. He has to get angrier.
Dude, he gets pretty fucking angry.
So you need to scare the players. That's my.
He gets pretty
fucking
angry. All right, we're gonna go all the way back to 11/13, Wednesday of last week, I believe it was. The Celtics beat the Nets 139-114. So the Nets had played the Celtics a few nights prior to this. They had lost in overtime on Friday the 8th. That was in Boston. They get them at home, and they absolutely just get walloped. What was the difference in those 2 games, Nick? Celtics had Jaylen Brown in the second game. Jaylen Brown ended up with, I believe, 24 points. Jason Tatum had 36. Peyton Pritchard had 23. This game was pretty much over after the first quarter. Just too much offensive firepower for the Celtics and very little offensive firepower for the Brooklyn Nets.
I mean, I thought you were going to say why they lose this game. Not because the difference in the game is because the Celtics out-rebounded us by 10, out-assisted us by 10, had 5 less turnovers, shot 54% from the field and 48% from 3. It's because they're a championship caliber team and we're the 10th seed right now. So This was a blowout. No surprise here. The Celtics also just ended the Cavs' undefeated streak tonight, like we mentioned. So, not a surprise. But I will say, again, if you're trying to take any positive outlooks on these games, Celtics shot 54%. We shot 51%. They shot 48 from three. We were 44. Like, we were still, and we actually outshot them from the free throw, 83 to 70. But to play a team like this and shoot 50%, that 50% is beating almost any other team in the league. But when you're playing against the Boston Celtics, a 54% night isn't out of the ordinary for them. So, not a surprising game, but I will say our numbers tell a little bit different of a story than what was shown on the court.
Yeah, this was a rough game for the majority of our starters. Nick Claxton was held to 3 points. He did virtually nothing in this game in 24 minutes. Schroeder and Cam Thomas, 16 for Schroeder, 17 for Cam Thomas, well below Cam's average of 24.6. He was 5 of 11 from the field. Really just wasn't able to do much in this one. Zaire Williams was the only bright spot for the Nets. He had 23 points. He was 8 of 14 from the field, 2 of 5 from three, 5 of 6 from the free throw line. Him and Watford are going to be fighting each other for minutes. I mean, those two guys are both young. They're both fan favorites up to this point. I think Watford has more of a guard mentality, whereas I think Zaire Williams is closer to a forward, to a 3 or a 4 than Watford is. Watford could be your point forward. He could be your 3. He could really play any position other than center. But yeah, strong game from Zaire Williams.
You know who we didn't
Really,
mention in
who?
this game or the last game was Shake Milton, who I actually like.
He's better than a few of the backup guards the Nets have had in recent years. Like, I remember the year that the Nets were playing Chris Chioza minutes. Like, you could have used a guy like Shake Milton.
I mean, you're looking at Shake Milton. I used to really enjoy watching him on the Sixers, right? You have 5 years on the Sixers, just looking at some numbers, shooting 48%, 10 points a game, 45%, 13 points a game. He's a guy, and I saw him hit some shots tonight. I think he kind of, again, played first half, shied away in the second when it got really tight. But he's a guy I would like more veteran presence to come in and hit some shots. Feel comfortable with him on the court. I've seen him in crunch time do some good things. So just a side note, because I'm looking at a couple of his numbers, like 8 and 8 in that game against the Celtics. Just didn't see enough minutes tonight. But overall, I want to see more Shake Milton.
Here's the problem. Jordy Fernandez likes Keon Johnson a lot. And Keon Johnson and
And he's
Shake
trying to
Milton kind of
develop
play.
young guys.
They kind of play the same position. You bring Watford back in the mix. Cam Thomas is another guard. So you just, we might see more of Shake after some trades are made, but I think his minutes are going to be pretty restricted up to this point.
I want you to know Shake isn't his birth name. It's Malik Benjamin Milton.
Okay, but can we still call him Shake on the podcast?
Yeah, absolutely.
Feel like you and I are usually a little bit more funny with our back and forth. We're a little bit more comedic, but it is 10:54 p.m. on a Tuesday.
What do you mean we? What do you mean we?
Mom said I'm just as funny as you, but in a different way.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. We don't have to dive into what that means.
That's what Mom said. All right, 2 more games. Let's talk about the first NBA Cup game. And Ian writes, win the NBA Cup, then tank. Ian, I'm 100% on board with that, but I will never, ever fully embrace the tank because I want to win basketball games. That's just me. I hate losing, even if we are supposed to tank for a better pick. All right, Nets played the Knicks on – I'm sorry. Yeah, this is the Cup game. So Friday, 11:15. This was a wild game. So the Knicks pretty much kicked our butt after the first quarter. For the majority of this game, they were up – I believe they were up 22 points at one point. And, not playing with Karl-Anthony Towns, Mikal Bridges was having a really strong game. OG Anunoby had a really strong game. And Jalen Brunson, I believe, finished with 37 in this game. But the Nets, albeit behind Cam Thomas, who was a motherfucking flamethrower in this game, 43 points, 16 of 22 from the field. He was 7 of 10 from three-point range. He, along with the rest of the Nets, they brought this team back from the dead all the way back until Dennis Schroeder hits the go-ahead 3 to put the Nets up 122 to 121. Everyone was going crazy at home watching this game. All the Knicks fans were stunned. You thought for a second, are the Nets actually going to pull this off? And then Jalen Brunson hits a 3 in Dorian Finney-Smith's face to put the Knicks up 2 with 6 seconds left. And then Mikal Bridges, the ex-net, blocks Dennis Schroeder's game-tying layup attempt to pretty much end the game. Brutal way for the Nets to lose. They come all the way back. They get the lead just to give it away and get rejected by Cam Johnson's former twin. Tough loss. What do you have to say?
So I saw the end of this game, came out of my show, and I was just praying for a Nets victory. There is no team across all major sports that I hate more than the New York Knicks. I hate every trader we grew up with in New Jersey who switched to become a Knicks fan as they got older, either because they were tired of losing or because they moved to New York or because the Nets moved to Brooklyn. I don't care what your reason was. You are a traitor, you are a front runner, and you are a loser. I never want to see the Knicks succeed. I would take a Celtics championship over a Knicks championship any day of the week. I think Cam Thomas could say, "Ha F you, Jalen Brunson." Was it Cam Thomas? You're saying Cam? Yes, Cam Thomas, who outscored him by 6. But at the end of the day, I gotta respect Brunson. I gotta respect the Knicks. They got some great players, but this was a heartbreaker. It was almost a game that you're like, all right, it's over. I want to turn it off, and they got your hopes up so much. It was like edging, and you got so close, and then you couldn't even finish. So uh, a really, really difficult game to watch towards the end there, just because you had a feeling they were going to blow it. But again, unbelievable performance by Cam Thomas. Really cool to see some firepower go back and forth like Brunson and Thomas. But that's a game I wish we had just one more shot at because, God, it hurts losing to the Knicks.
Brunson finished with 37 and 7. OG Anunoby finished with 25 and 8 boards. He is so fucking good when he's healthy. And then Mikal Bridges finished with 22 points on 9 of 17 from the field. All right, we move on. The Nets played the Knicks a few days later. Karl-Anthony Towns was back. The Knicks decided, hey, we're going to double team Cam Thomas. And this game ended up really not being close. 114-104. The score was a lot closer than the actual game indicates. Nets never really had a strong punch back after the first quarter. Really, this was New York Knicks all the way. Cam Johnson was your high man for the Nets with 22 points on 7 to 12 from the field. Cam Thomas finished with 16. 7 of those came from the free throw line, and then Jalen Wilson with 15 points off the bench. Noah Clowney with 13 points off the bench. Cat dominated. Cat had 26 in this. He did not have to play in the fourth quarter. OG Anunoby 24, Mikal Bridges 21, and Josh Hart with 20. And even though the Nets held Jalen Brunson to 12 points, he did have 10 assists. It just didn't matter. This Knicks team, their starting five is just so talented that if you don't bring it, if you don't bring the effort, they're just going to destroy you. Guys like OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges and Josh Hart are 3 effort guys, right? So Nets had no chance in this one.
We're getting out rebounded every game too. This is a 12 rebound difference total. And you look at tonight, look at the Celtics game was an 11 rebound difference total. We especially, we're missing Claxton, we're missing Dayron. Like there's times where we just look small, where Simmons is our biggest guy. And even guys like Clowney who come on the court. Clowney's tall, Clowney's scrawny. I mean, we don't really have a big body besides Simmons to put on someone down low.
And let's be real, Simmons' position is not center.
No, he's not, and he'll match up if he needs to on a big man, but it's not really his strong suit. He can manage, he can get by. I've seen him put a body on Embiid better than others, but I keep seeing this pattern, and like we always talk about, right? There's so many aspects that go into this game, but if you're getting consistently out rebounded, you're just not going to get as many opportunities as the other team to score. And even tonight, we pulled off the win, but the amount of offensive boards the Hornets got, I just want to open that back up to get the exact number.
And they were playing without a real center too. Let's be real. Grant Williams is not a real center.
We got out rebounded tonight, if you're listening to this yesterday, by 9 by the Hornets. And that's a game we won by 1. So we're talking about 3 games, 9 different rebound difference, and an 11 rebound difference. We're not going to win games, or it's going to be like today where we just skate by 1 point. So if you're telling me we're making moves, whoever's moving Cam Thomas, Cam Johnson, we're still in need of a bigger body down low because you're looking at a Clowney and a Claxton who are kind of the same body type, and Simmons who's actually bigger than them but plays the guard position. So that's something tank season, non-tank season, get a pick future things. And you know what's funny, Spen? I'm going to do a throwback to the New Jersey Nets. This was our problem when we lost the 0-2, 0-3 championships to the Lakers and the Spurs, and then the Eastern Conference Finals to the Pistons. We never had a big guy, or we had one big guy and a bunch of small players, and nobody else could rebound. You're looking at who are our biggest guys over those years: Kenyon Martin, Jason Collins. There wasn't, a Derek Coleman
Show our boy some love. Most recurring guest as a former player. Aaron Williams.
Akbar. Okay, A Train. I much love to A Train. I know he definitely listens to all of our pods. So A Train, that's no disrespect to you, but right now we could use an A Train times two, where we're getting someone who is that body, can also score. You're looking at these teams that are dominating. Celtics have a huge lineup. And obviously, I'm talking about a exception of the team that might be the best in the league, but Tatum's big, Brown's big, Horford's big, Porzingis is huge. We are so, I guess in this regard, I would say we're so top heavy. I wouldn't say bottom heavy, right? Bottom you'd consider down low. We're so.
Well, what you're trying to say is we have a million wings. Like that's what we have. We have a million wings.
We need some drumsticks.
I'll be interested. We need some drumsticks. I'll be interested to see what Day'Ron can provide when he comes back. He's an undersized center, but he's a center nonetheless.
Claxton, are you really interested to see? He's not going to do much.
Claxton's been underwhelming. I mean, he has not historically been able to, play well against the Celtics. Embiid kind of owns him. Yeah, I get what you're saying. We definitely need some more size. If anything, yeah, it's a good point. It's a good point. We have to rebound the ball better, and we have I
looked up best Nets big man of all time. Who do you think they put number one?
Not Kenyon Martin. So is it what's his name? Chocolate Thunder, Darryl Dawkins?
No, it's going to be someone who is just there long enough to get that.
Brooke Lopez.
Yes.
Yeah, Brooke Lopez.
Who is not? I wouldn't even consider him.
Well, he actually. I don't know if he still is, but is he the top scorer in Brooklyn Nets history? Look that up.
I think he is. Yeah, Brooke Lopez, 10,044.
There you go.
10,444.
I mean, look. It was evident in the game against Karl Anthony Towns. It was evident tonight, even though the Hornets didn't have a big man really. We do need some help rebounding. But I think that'll get better with time. That'll get better. It'll get better. I'm sure of it. We're not going to have this many wings for the rest of the season. We are going to trade some guys. We're going to move some guys around. And yes, I do think Jordy might invest in a power forward or a center who will live down low.
All right, I got a fun exercise for you. So Brooke Lopez wasn't just the most Brooklyn Nets scorer of all time. He's clear that he was the most in New Jersey Nets franchise history in general.
Yeah, did he start in Jersey? Was he drafted by the New Jersey Nets?
I believe he was. Yeah, so that raises the question, who were the other four, who were after Brooke Lopez? You don't have to give me the order, top scorers in Nets franchise history.
Kevin Durant.
No.
Kenyon Martin.
No.
Vince Carter.
Yes, number 3.
Julius Erving.
No.
Drazen Petrovic.
These are terrible. Come on, who are the biggest names who were there for all
Jason Kidd.
2000s? Yes, number 5.
Kerry Kittles.
Number 6. You're missing. Who's our guy?
Who's our guy?
Who's your favorite net of all time?
Richard Jefferson.
Number 4. And then you're not going to get number 2. It's Buck Williams.
Oh, Buck Williams. I wouldn't have gotten that.
But that's Carter. It goes Carter, Jefferson, 80s. Kidd, 3, 4, 5.
Carter, Jefferson, Kidd. That's crazy. I wouldn't have guessed Kidd. Huh. Interesting. All right. Well, listen, who do the Nets playing next? What's the next game on the schedule, Nick? What do we got? We have the 76ers on Friday night. I mean, the Sixers are a shit show right now. Did you hear that stuff with Maxey and Embiid? They had a players-only meeting, and Maxey called out Embiid for always being late to meetings. and they're 2-11 right now. There's a lot of shit going on. There's an opportunity for the Nets to beat up on maybe a more talented team, but outwork them.
And they
You
got
know,
Paul George. God damn.
before we end the pod, I have one question for you. So you and I haven't talked about this because you're a part-time pod. Nick just disappeared, and when he joins, I'm gonna ask him the question. For those who are first-time listeners, Nick is my brother. He's pretty much the part-time co-host. But whenever he's available, I love to have him on because he has a really unique perspective on
Are
the
you
Brooklyn
answering a
Nets.
question? Did someone ask a
No.
question?
I was just filling in the time while you disappeared. So my question to you, Nick, is this: a lot of Nets fans out there want this team to tank. They want them to lose the rest of the games for the rest of the season and just be as terrible as possible. I want to see the Nets win as much as possible. I'd obviously like to see them get a good draft pick. But where do you stand? I mean, can you watch the Nets games and be like okay rooting for losses? Like that's the thing. I can't root for losses. So as a fan, where do you sit on this? The Nets need to lose. The Nets need to win. Where do you
I'm
sit on
like
that?
you. I think you always play to win. I don't like tanking. I think it's a pussy strategy. I think you develop guys, you get them in a position where they're good enough to either keep or trade, and you kind of build from scratch in terms of development and talent and strategy. I think tanking is a desperate and pathetic strategy. With that said, to answer your question, I want to watch a team that's trying to win. If I get the sense that the Nets are trying to lose, I honestly won't watch. That's not fun for me. I'm not going to root for a tank. So I want to see them win. I want to see them try to win. If I have any feeling that it's not going in that direction, I will not watch games. I'm not going to be a hater. I'll always be a fan, but I will wait until they're back on track. Watching tonight felt like they really wanted to win this game. Tonight was fun. Tonight was, maybe in the long scheme of things, we have a long way to go, but let's earn this win tonight. We do not like the Hornets, and we want to prove we're better than them.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with you. And it's funny, like if Sean Marks really wanted to tank the season away, I think he wouldn't have hired Jordy Fernandez. I think it's kind of like, hey, keep Kevin Ollie, right? Like he wasn't a great coach in the second half of the season. Let him start this year and then just let him like completely shit the bed and let this Nets team shit the bed with no leadership. I think by bringing in Jordy Fernandez and starting to create this culture, you're almost saying like, hey, we have 1 million first round picks the next few years. We're not going to lay down. And then the other thing that does, Nick, which I don't think fans realize, it makes guys like Cam Johnson and Dorian Finney-Smith's trade value that much higher.
Agree.
Because
I
now they
agree.
see the Nets are winning basketball games. Why are they winning basketball games? Because of the play of the early play of Dennis Schroeder, the consistent scoring of Cam Johnson, the fact that Dorian Finney-Smith was able to get a stop on Jason Tatum at the end of regulation. Like these are things that contenders will give draft picks for. Oh, Cam Johnson just put up 34. Here, have 2 or 3 first round picks for him. So I 100% agree with you that A, it's fun to watch your team win, even in a year where they're not supposed to, but B, there are certain sort of positive effects that can have on a basketball team. And guess what? If I'm a veteran and I see what's going on over there, I want to play there too.
Agreed.
Okay, that does it for this week's. By the way, the 76ers game on Friday, as Ian points out, that's another NBA Cup game. So go NBA Cup. Love it. Thanks to everyone for tuning into another episode of Spenny and the Nets, episode 205. Nick, any final words for our listeners before we wrap up the show?
No.
All right, there you have it. Thanks as always, and come again next week.